Are you following me? Are you following me, dude?
This week, we are following Laura Smith of My Serene Garden. Laura lives in Zone 6B in rural Michigan. Her father was an Italian immigrant who, along with her mom, taught her all about gardening as a young child. She grew her first garden when she was 22 and has stayed consistent with growing ever since. Many people have an effective and methodological way of gardening, but Laura would say hers is more wild and free. She started her Instagram page last year and has met some amazing gardeners on the way. She truly thinks our gardening community is something special and unique and is excited for what is to come in the future. So let's welcome Laura to our show. Hi,
Hi.
Laura. How are you doing? Welcome to
Good.
Let's
How
Go.
are you?
Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for joining with us today. It's great to have you here. And let's jump right in and talk a little bit about your garden story. Where did
Okay.
gardening get really, where did you first have your first gardening experience?
Um, I would say it goes back to my childhood, just watching my
Okay.
parents garden, and we had 11 acres growing up. So
11
my dad
acres,
would,
huh?
yeah, he
Nice.
would till everything by hand. He had a shovel, and he would just go out there every morning
Yeah.
and do little by little. And
Yeah.
before we knew it, we had this big garden that he could just, they could plant anything.
Right.
So he did that for my mom, and I just remember they'd be out there every morning just watering the plants. They grew so many
Yeah.
tomatoes, peppers, eggplants.
All sorts of stuff. I mean, with that much
Yeah.
space, you probably grow a lot of different things, huh? So that's a
Right.
really great experience to have when you're young, is to
Yeah.
be able to have parents who are growing garden and fresh food
Mhm.
for you all. So that's great
Right.
to have. All right. So again, you say that you didn't get started though with your first garden until you were 22.
Yeah, so my dad had passed away and I was taking care of my mom because she got sick as well. So I think for me it was just a way to connect with my dad, like what he taught
Yeah.
me growing up. So I started my own little garden where they used to have theirs. And I fell in love with it. I never want
Yeah.
ever since that experience. I was like, I just have to keep doing this.
Right. Yeah. It's probably one of those ways to kind of pass along that experience that you gained from when you were younger, right?
Right.
And yeah, and kind of keep their memory alive through,
Yeah. Yeah.
what their passions were too when you were growing
Mhm.
up. That's really awesome. So,
Yeah.
are you you say you're gardening in the same space though? I mean, is
Yeah. When I lived with them, took their space and I just made it my own little garden. But eventually, I moved out, and
yeah,
ever since then, I've just wherever I've lived, I've had a little garden.
yeah,
So I just
that's
take their
awesome.
methods and just
Yeah,
I go with that with what they've taught me.
yeah, that's excellent.
Mhm.
So, okay, so you're growing your garden
Mhm.
and you probably had several seasons now. Are there any sort of favorite things that you have that you like to grow, things that that
Yeah.
are the
I'd say tomatoes.
yeah,
Definitely my favorites.
yeah,
It's a staple in every Italian food, every dish that we have. You have to have something with tomatoes,
that's right,
especially the
huh?
sauce, or even basil. The aroma of the basil when you start
Oh,
cooking it,
yes, I
it
love
just
basil.
fills the kitchen. Yeah, those are, and basil it just grows so well.
Yeah,
You keep picking it, and it just keeps growing back. So it's just so nice to have throughout the summer. You
yeah,
don't have to
yeah,
go to the store and buy, the dried up basil. It's just fresh
yeah.
right in your garden.
Nothing like fresh things right out of your garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Tomatoes and peppers are usually one of those common ones that everybody really likes to grow. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Anything though that you found that is that you don't really like to grow? Anything that's
Um,
really kind of difficult or presents challenges for you?
I would say this is probably uncommon, but probably strawberries for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just cannot get them to produce a lot. I can get
Yeah.
them to grow and I can propagate them, but as far as getting the actual strawberry to grow, it just seems like I've always had issues.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're growing your strawberries, do
Mm,
you let the runners go?
yeah,
Do you
and
let a lot of them go?
I put them in new little pots, and then I let
Yeah,
a new strawberry plant grow. But
yeah.
for some reason, they just don't seem to want to grow. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the suggestions I would have that I found out after growing strawberries for a while because I loved propagating them. I just
Mm.
couldn't believe like these plants just produce all these new plants and they got these runners that run around everywhere. And
Right.
I found that I had the same issue. I had a ton of
Mm.
plants. I had new plants. I had new strawberry patches all over my garden and everything. But the
Yeah.
one thing I didn't have was these really productive plants producing
Mm.
the strawberries. So what I learned now that I have all of these plants. So I've got plenty of plants. So now I don't need any more. So I start cutting those runners. Start cutting those
Okay.
runners as they start showing up. And that way your plant starts producing fruit more so than trying to produce more plants.
Oh,
So
okay.
that might be a good suggestion for you is
Yeah.
to start taking the strategy of cutting those runners off
Mm. That's a
and
good
see how
idea.
those work for you. Maybe you'll get some good strawberry production this year.
Yeah, I'll have to try that.
Yeah, yeah, I love strawberries. I again, like I said, I've got
Too.
them all over my garden, all sorts of places. Anywhere I could find a little extra space, I was putting strawberries. And more so again, too, coming to the fact that I was producing all these new plants.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I got to find new places to put them and everything. But now anymore, I just start cutting those runners as they show up so I can get good production out of my plants. And that seems to be doing the trick for me.
Yeah, I'll definitely try that.
Right, excellent. And so any others types of things that you like growing in your garden that you
Actually, I really like growing corn too. I love just seeing how tall they can get and
yeah,
just the different varieties that you can grow. The ones that are so colorful. I love
yeah,
growing those.
or the colorful ones
Yeah.
like the glass gem variety.
Yes. Those are beautiful.
Yeah, yeah, those are really cool. That
Mm.
was actually one of the first corns I actually tried. I don't have like a big amount of space,
Mm.
which is something you really need to get really good production off of your corn
Yeah.
because you want a bunch of plants all grouped together so that they can
Mhm.
pollinate each other and you can produce enough pollen for each of those cobs, you know.
Mm.
And yeah, so glass gem was one of the first ones I tried, but I really, again, there's nothing that beats a nice sweet corn too, so
Yeah.
I love those as well.
My
And
kids love those.
yes, and the same thing too. I think one of the cool things about corn is it's, just another type of grass in a way,
Mhm.
and the way it grows. I mean, just so fast. I mean,
Oh, I know.
you
Yeah.
put a little thing in, it pops up,
Mm.
and next thing you know, it's 2 feet tall. Next thing you know, it's
Right.
4 or 5 feet tall.
It's
Such a
definitely
great
fun to
growth.
watch.
Yeah, yeah, I love corn too.
Mm.
I've got a bigger space this year, so we're going to try growing a lot more corn and see if we can't get better
Ooh.
production. Because I got smaller spaces, I can get a small group of them together, but I
Mm.
don't get very good production out of that again because
Oh.
because it's not enough. There's not enough in the group in order to get really good pollination. I mean, I'll
Mm.
get some cobs, but then you'll have like, if you open it up, there'll be like patches without any corn kernels or anything
Yeah.
because it's not getting fully pollinated.
Mm. I
But
have a problem with squirrels too sometimes. Like
oh,
I've noticed they do try to go after the corn.
oh, squirrels love corn. Yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta watch out. You gotta watch out for those buggers. For sure, absolutely. So I think we talked about in your bio there that you started your Instagram page last year. So what inspires you to take these garden experiences that you had and sharing them with everybody on Instagram?
So for me, I think it was just because I'm more of an introvert and I work from home. I'm
Yeah.
a stay-at-home mom. I don't really get to
Mhm.
go out that much. And gardening is just such a passion of mine. So I thought maybe I'll go on here and see if I can make friends this way. Just
Yeah.
people who share the same interests as me. And sure enough, once I made it, I have so many close friends, I would say, just from
Yeah.
going on there and, messaging back and forth, sharing our gardening tips and what we're growing. I don't know. It's just so much fun.
Yes, absolutely. And I totally agree. I think that that was one of the things that took kind of my experience with gardening to another level was when I
Mm.
started sharing it, because I was kind of similar to you in a sense. I was, I would say necessarily an introvert, but I spent a lot of time in my garden spaces, just myself,
Yeah.
trying to do things, experiment with things, growing different types of varieties of all sorts of stuff. And I also had this project, which actually really kind of pushed and inspired everything. I had pepper plants growing on a carport rooftop,
Oh.
and and in the neighborhood I lived in, everybody noticed these plants growing up on this rooftop,
Mm.
and they were, so I'd get a lot of people who would say, you know what, you really need to share that. You need to share that stuff with everybody. And that's when
Yeah.
that's what kind of inspired me. Like, I do watch a lot of YouTube channels. I do, see a lot of gardening on the other social media. Maybe I should, start one myself.
Mm.
And then similar to you, that's when things really just opened up because I discovered the gardening community.
Right.
That
And it's everywhere too. It's not just here in the US. It seems like every country in Europe, there's people who are just so
yeah,
interested in it and they have their pages. Canada. I've made so
yeah,
many friends, internationally. It's just so, I don't know,
yes,
I really enjoy it.
yeah, that is a big thing. In fact, I'll just kind of forward promo our next week's show too, because of exactly what you're talking about.
Mm.
Is we're having a show next week that's all going to be all guests from the United Kingdom.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I mean, gardening is a big international thing, and
Mhm.
that's one of the cool things that social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook groups, and all that sort of stuff allows us, is to connect with these people from all over the world who share
Right.
that same sort of passion for gardening as we do.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Um, so let's see. I think we have a couple of questions from our audience for you, Laura. Let's check out what we
Okay.
got here. It's like Jordan Lee asks, can you share some of your favorite family dishes, recipes that incorporates ingredients from your garden? Got any favorite things that you like to make out of your fresh veggies from your garden?
I would definitely say just sauce.
Yeah,
That's the first thing that popped in my head. Every Sunday, and I don't know if it's common in Europe, but here with Italian families, it's every Sunday we have to make a sauce.
right.
So I would just say that.
Yeah, yeah. Sauces are important, right?
Yeah.
They pretty much go with everything, right?
Right. Every Sunday, I just remember my mom being in the kitchen. She would, especially in the summertime, she would have the fresh tomatoes out and the basil.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you what, that reminds me of one of my very first jobs I had when I was a teenager. I worked for this Italian family. And I mean, they were first generation Italians from
Mm.
Amalfi, Italy, and
Oh.
they had this really wonderful restaurant locally uh, where I was living called Gambardella's. And and they were just so awesome. The whole family, they really treated me like family. It was just one of these great experiences I had when I was young. But that was one of the things I remember. That was my job and for a restaurant, you can't just do it on Sundays. It had to be every
Right.
single day. Every single day. My job was to get up early, show up at the restaurant, and start this big, huge pot of sauce
Wow.
every day, just gallons and gallons of red sauce.
You probably have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
really good recipe now.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's just good stuff. I mean, really
Yeah.
great. I really miss those people too. It's been years since I've seen them, but one of those great experiences in my life,
Oh,
was
I bet.
yeah. Oh, they had an awesome family. Treated us like family. I remember when I had my daughter too. My baby daughter was born, and they literally brought their family in from all over the place just to celebrate
Oh.
my daughter being born. That was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
family's definitely most important to Italians. It's
That's
just
right. Y- That's awesome. That's awesome. So, anything that with your Instagram or anything, you've probably shared quite a bit of things. Is there anything you're looking forward to doing, or anything you're planning this year at all? Yeah.
I would definitely say just we're trying to expand my garden. So
Okay.
the fence that was up last year, we're going to take it down and build a new one. And I think we want to expand it out and make a few more beds. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a little bit of a project, but it's going to be fun. I
Oh
just
yeah.
really want to focus on the tomatoes though, just because we use so much of them and
Yeah.
the prices have gone up. So I want to try to get as many as possible in.
Do you have any favorite tomatoes that you like growing?
I love beefsteak tomatoes.
Beefsteaks. Yeah.
Yeah, it just has so much flavor to them.
Yeah.
Romas are good.
Yeah. Those are really Romas are pretty big centerpiece to a good sauce, right?
Yeah.
You try
Even
like
the
San
cherry tomatoes.
Marzanos? Have you
Oh,
tried San
yes, those are
Marzanos?
good.
Those are
Yeah.
good as well too.
Mhm.
All right, let's see. We got another question for you here. Let's check that out. We got Jay Dixon asking, "What single thing makes you most enthusiastic about gardening? What
Um,
one thing makes you most enthusiastic about gardening?"
I think just being outside in nature and just seeing it grow, like that's something that you did. You planted everything and you're just watching it grow and you're going to use that for your food, for your family. It's just, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's exciting. Every year it never gets boring.
it never gets boring, does it?
No,
I think it almost actually gets more exciting every year. I
it
find myself
does.
even more excited every single year, every season
Yeah.
to
You
to
find
get
something new to grow and you want to watch that grow.
or even if something didn't work out last year, it's like, oh, I'm gonna make it happen
Yeah.
this year. Yes, absolutely. Gardening is fun and exciting. Let's see, we got another question there for Laura.
Mhm.
Jordan Lee asks, what are some ways you pass on your green thumb and love of gardening to your family members? Do you get your kids out in the garden with you?
Oh yeah. I just want to say hi, Jordan. He's my friend from Instagram.
Oh, awesome. Excellent.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
my kids love gardening. They love to be out there with me anytime they seem, even now I've been growing seedlings and my youngest has been wanting to plant the seeds with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
So even in the summertime, they love to be out there. They love to water the garden. They try to get in as much as possible. So that's nice to see them, love it as much as I do.
That's great.
Mm.
Yeah, so awesome, to get the kids involved with
Yeah,
everything when it
yeah.
comes to gardening. I mean, I have a few different growing experiences when I was younger, but that was something I kind of really missed out on was that
Mhm.
real in-depth experience with, family and people, in the garden and everything. But,
Mhm.
I love to be able to pass that on with everybody else too now. But there isn't
Oh yeah.
anything more exciting than seeing kids really enjoy fresh food and the
Oh,
whole
definitely.
experience of growing things. It's like you said that it's a fascinating thing, to watch
Mhm.
something grow from a seed all the way to this full-size plant producing something that you can eat, right?
Right. And I think
Yep.
it helps them eat healthier too, because I feel like they think it's something that they grew too. They helped with it. And if you
Hmm.
tell them, go out and pick something, I don't know, it seems like they'll choose that over junk food anytime.
Absolutely. Yeah. One
Mm.
of my favorite quotes from a gardener, uh, Ron Finley, said, "If you teach a kid to grow a tomato, they'll eat a tomato." And I think
Yeah.
again too, that was one of those things that I was lacking when I was younger and I was a kid, in not having someone, showing me, that sort of gardening experience. I was a picky kid when it came to vegetables.
Oh.
I didn't really get into them or enjoy vegetables and these things that we grow in our garden until I became an adult.
Right.
So I think that becomes one of those things that makes gardening with your children even more important, is to be able to teach them that appreciation for fresh food.
Definitely. And I think we need it now more than ever with, everything that they sell at the grocery stores. It's so much of it is processed, and, there's just this little
Yeah.
section for fresh fruits and vegetables. So I think
Hmm.
it's really important that we teach our kids how to garden.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's,
Mhm.
and that was probably one of the biggest eye-opening experiences for me as I got older and started discovering, these new and different types of food that you could grow and could garden, was the fact that, they only had certain things at the store that I was used to.
Yeah.
And learning that there's just a wider variety of things, and not only that, the flavor and the taste of things were completely different from what I was used to.
Yeah.
So, growing things and having the opportunity to grow many different varieties is such a big thing when it comes to gardening, because of that, that point in general, is that you
Yeah.
won't believe the flavors that you'll experience by growing your own food.
I agree.
Yeah, that's awesome. Excellent. Well, um, so again, I want to thank you for joining with us here on Earth Day, Laura. It's a really great conversation and talking about your gardening and your experience and everything. And I really want to encourage everybody who's watching our show right now to join Laura in her garden at My Serene Garden on Instagram. Thanks again for joining us here on Earth Day,
Thank you
Laura.
for having me. It
Such
was
so
fun.
so awesome. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye.